Good everyone, today I'm going to be talking about Dan Mora's art. I'm going to be talking about the things that I learned from it and the things that I try to add to my own art on my own comic books by just looking at his work. I'm going to just talk about it today. So Dan Mora is one of the contemporary comic book artists in today's age, along with guys like Jorge Jimenez. These are some of the popular artists that are, I call them young popular artists that are coming up. That their works are quite popular these days, and I like his work a lot because of how clean it is. And apart from that, one thing I like about Damora's art is the way he draws faces. He probably has the one of my favorite faces in comics because one of my favorite faces in comics. It is easily recognizable. He has really nice poses and things like that. But for me, the thing I like most about his work is how clean it is and the way he draws faces, most especially faces. I've said faces now a lot. Yeah, but anyways, going back to his art, his work looks clean. His work, especially another thing I like about his work is that he has posters. If you didn't notice, the idea of these videos is I just ramble about this artist that I like and that I'm learning, because I do YouTube lives, and in those lives I do studies about this artist. And by study, what I mean is just copying. I just copy their drawings. I go online on the internet, or if I see it on X or any social media platform, I just download it or screenshot it, and then I copy them, right? And I copy them using my characters. The reason why I do this is that I do try to see how I could apply the choices they made for these characters, whether it be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. I do try to see how I could apply the choices they made on my own characters, so that whenever because I spend more time with my own characters, so whenever I'm actually drawing my own character in a comic, or a comic book page, or doing a cover or a poster, it's going to be a lot easier for me to apply it to my own characters. So it's a selfish reason, but I encourage you to actually study like that if you don't, because that is how I studied anatomy. I just copied the anatomy over and over and over again in different angles, and eventually it stuck to my head, and also the names also stuck to my head as well. So that is how I study other artists as well. You can check out some of these study sessions on YouTube Live. The videos are quite long, but you can check them out. But anyways, going back to Dan Mora, I like his composition. His composition, the way he does covers. His covers has really nice cinematic looks. They have these movie poster looks to them, and he has the various variations of them. So this is what I'm talking about with regards to composition, right? Really great composition to his work. He could just draw a lot of things. He could just maybe draw a silhouette, a character silhouette, and then he could just draw a lot of movement there. It's something I'm still working on. I'm not great at comic book composition. Usually I just draw the superhero character standing in a badass pose and it's done. But I am working on it. So that is something I've noticed about his art that I really like. His line work is very readable, and very polished. If you look at his anatomy, right? Because we have to talk about anatomy. If you look at his anatomy, he adds what is necessary. Kind of like the same thing with Ryan Ottley, because I did talk about Ryan Ottley. His line work is quite clean, and he adds what needs to be added to make the pose, or to convey the information that he wants to convey to the viewer. So he doesn't add, he just makes it sculptural, right? He just makes it look 3D, and he also add a lot of hatching lines to convey form. If you compare his work with that of Jim Lee, because Dan Mora for me is a less detailed Jim Lee. I don't mean that in an insulting way or anything. I just mean that he adds less details to his work. The way Jim Lee adds texture, if you look at, just try this exercise, just take a Jim Lee artwork, a couple of artworks that Jim Lee has done, not the colored ones, just the inks. Take them on one side, and then take Dan Mora's work on one side, and then look at it. You're going to see how eerily similar they are to each other, and especially the way they draw eyes and the way they draw expressions. They make it as simplistic as possible, but the thing about Jim Lee is that he adds more detail. He adds more hatching lines to the character's face, and of course, with the way they draw male and the way they draw women, all artists do this. They tend to add less lines on the women's face and more lines on the male's face to kind of like convey a bit of masculinity and make the female face look softer, so that you don't want to be drawing ugly women. Yeah, so that's kind of what they do. And yeah, back to Dan Mora, with regards to like anatomy, the anatomical choices. That's why whenever I talk about like studying these artists, I would say like a lot of the times if you're studying them, at the same time try to study anatomy so that you understand the choices that they're making. Like if you look at this side view now of this character, you're going to see let me say like this pose that I did here, this time lapse on my right. Where's the pose? Yeah, this is the pose that I copied here. This is the pose I copied. If you look at the artwork, like he understands anatomy so well, he understands the basics so well. The work just looks fine, clean, straight to the point. Instead of like using a lot of hatching lines, what he uses is that he just uses texture, a bit of texture here and there to just like sell the form of the character's muscle or the character in general. That's what he uses, and you can see a bit of like manga style in his work, especially with the way he draws women. It's the same thing with Jim Lee as well, because he has like, I think he has a manga background, I don't really know. But you can check out, I know I'm rambling here a bit, but I promise these videos will get better. But some of Dan Mora's work you can check out. There's this one called Klaus, because that's the first time I got introduced to his work, and it was by a friend of mine, the person who I'm working on my own comic with, well, our comic with. He was just showing me references, and I saw his artwork. I saw the one about King Arthur. There's a comic out. It was an indie comic about King Arthur, something like that, rising again. I'll put the name on the screen. Yeah, but anyways, like if you look at like the form of the character, it just looks very clean. But with Jim Lee, he's going to add a lot of hatching lines here and there, rather than using like texture like this. The way he uses texture is quite different from the way Dan Mora uses texture. Yeah, so like the way I did mine, the drawing, just looking at the references that I used here. Give me a moment, un momento. Probably see, because I did download a lot of references that I plan to use in the future. So I'm looking for them, especially the one I did here with the drawing. Yeah, if you look at this like face of this lady, you can see how like simple it is. He's not adding a lot of hatching lines, and most times you don't really need to, especially let's say if you're drawing like a character that is far away. You don't need to hatch a lot, you don't need to add a lot of detail. It's just unnecessary. There are a lot of techniques in comics that you can just understand the decision that the artist made. That's why you have to look at a lot of art whenever you are trying to focus on a particular area, whether that be concept art or environment art for movies or games. So whatever medium it is that you're working in, you have to look at that art consistently. A lot of the artists that work in that area consistently, so that you can sort of note the decisions that they make, in general. So you can see here I copied this lady's nose, and I try to be consistent with it, because his eyes, the way he draws faces is my favorite thing. So I did try to draw not much, but just two faces, male and female. He makes them clean, and the less lines you add on a character, the younger that character looks, and the more lines you add on the character, the more that character, the older that character looks, and the more intimidating that character looks. You can manipulate it to make it look differently, but like Nightwing, for instance, he's a young guy, so of course there are going to be less lines on the character, and also the art style. That thing I was talking about, having a bit of manga style and using simple, concise lines, is consistent. Like if you look at this Joker work, I have God, I would like to show. I hope I can't do it. I wanted to show you, like, I'm going to try and put it on the screen. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I don't know. I don't like editing videos that much. But anyways, if you look at this Joker is a pretty popular character. If you just search Jim Lee Joker, you're going to see how detailed Jim Lee's work is in comparison to this Dan Mora's work. Yeah, this one that I did, of course, it's not perfect. It's not perfect artwork, but I'm really happy about it because I sort of got the idea of the way he draws face. The eyes are usually big, especially for the women. Wow, let me just show you. For the way he draws eyes, I don't know if you remember like Young Justice, not Young Justice, Justice League, where this old Justice League, where like I'm going to show like a picture of the Justice League. In the Justice League, the way they draw eyes, because it's cartoon, they make it simple. Probably one of my favorite cartoons. What's going on here? The way they draw eyes is like a Superman eyes. I always noted this thing. They will just draw eyes like this, and they are done, right? And if you look at Dan Mora, the way he draws eyes for the men, he just does something like this, and then he adds the irises, right? And he's done. As simple as that. So he makes his art style just looks a bit it just looks simple and cartoonish, and that's the way he draws like men eyes. And then for the women eyes, he makes it a lot more bigger, but he still like maintains it, because if you look at this shape is the shape that is used, that just simplifies the planes of the eye. Because when you're drawing the eye, usually there are like 5 planes. If you're drawing the eye, usually it depends on the person or the ethnicity of the eyes you're drawing, but generally eyes usually have 5 planes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planes like this, right? Like this. But Dan Mora just simplifies it like this into 4 planes in general. That's his artistic choice. But for the women, he then adds like the eyebrows. He makes the eyebrow thicker, sort of like them applying eyeliner, I think, or makeup, so that they look prettier than the men. Well, so that they look prettier, and that this is a woman that I'm drawing. And I plan on drawing a lot of his references, a lot of his work, and copying it to the point where the women that I draw also look pretty when I draw them. Yeah. Anyways, also the way he draws mouth, because I told you I like the way. My favorite thing about his draw is the way he draws mouth. So for men, the mouths are just pretty simple. They're just simple lines, especially for white men. He just makes them simple lines, and he uses what do they call it? Line weight to sort of define how the character's mouth looks. Something like this, simple like this, as simple as this. They call it reductions. But for the women, usually they wear makeup, so he just uses the simple shape for the women for whatever expressions that he's drawing, as simple as this. And then he then puts like a point for highlights, and then he fills it with black, as simple as that. And the women look 5 times more prettier than if you were to just use hatching lines. But someone like other artists, they'll probably just draw the mouth, right? And like to add form, they'll probably just use hatching lines, like curved hatching lines around the mouth to sort of give it shape, something like that. Different artists have different styles. Yeah, that's how Dan Mora does his. And I also like the way he draws children as well. They actually look like children, and you just like to draw things like that. His work is very accommodating, and deceptively simple, but it's not. It's years and years of skill, and I would encourage every single person to draw as much as possible. And like I was talking about with his posters, you can see a lot of with like his composition. He's not the only one, of course, other artists do this as well. He uses negative space very, very well, and that is something I try to learn, and this is a learning process. And so far, these are the things that I've observed about Dan Mora's art. It has great shape language. He doesn't over render. He adds the details when he needs to. He makes the way he inks, it makes it easier for if you've actually done coloring before, like whether you've colored comic or like colored the cover art or colored your own inks, right? You're going to see that the way you ink is going to affect how easy it is for you to color, right? Because you could ink in a way that you leave spaces so that when you feel, like if you use Clip Studio Paint, when you feel the inks, the colors could just spill out and just make it, a bit uncomfortable for you to draw, for you to color, I mean. So the way he inks, it makes it easier. If you look at it on first glance, it makes it easier for the colorist to actually color. And he's a great artist in general. He's a great artist. Love Dan Mora. Would plan on doing more drawings and studies of his work. Check him out. He's worked on a plethora of works, but the one I knew him with is Klaus and that other work that I keep forgetting, but it's an image comic. I'm going to post it and show it. And then he has worked on Shazam. There was a Shazam work he did. There was also what do you call it, Detective Comics work that he did, and several comics he has done. Just check Dan Mora, you're going to see his bibliography. These are the things, or these are the ramblings that I got from studying Dan Mora's art. You can check out my life to sort of see the things that I noted with his art while I was drawing. And if you like content like this, please give it a like. I want to appreciate every single person that do show up on my life, and thank you all. I really appreciate it. Please, we are trying to get to 2K. If you're in this video and you haven't liked it, please just smash the like button. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Check out my comics, some global comics. I'm working on a current issue now, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.